Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big ideas. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a concept that, believe it or not, secretly runs our entire economic world. It's called elasticity. All right, let's just jump right in with a question. Imagine you run a business. To make more money, should you raise your prices, or should you actually lower them? It sounds simple, right? But this is a puzzle every single business owner, from the person running the local coffee shop to the CEO of a huge car company, has to solve. Okay, so just to see how high the stakes really are, let's put you in the driver's seat. Imagine you're the one calling the shots for a few real-world businesses facing this exact problem. So you're the Ford dealer. Do you bump up car prices by 5%? You're managing the local movie theater. Should you offer cheaper tickets for kids? You're the CEO of a crayon company. What's your move? Get it wrong, and you could lose millions. But here's the thing. The right answer to every single one of these questions, it all comes down to one single powerful economic idea. And that secret weapon, the key that just unlocks this whole pricing puzzle, well, it's a concept called elasticity. Okay, that sounds a little academic, I know, but here's what it really means in plain English. Elasticity is just a way to measure how much people react when a price changes. How sensitive are we, the consumers, to a price hike or a price drop? The absolute best way to get this is to think of a rubber band. Seriously, is customer demand stretchy or unstretchy? If demand is elastic, it's super stretchy. A small tug on the price causes a huge change in how much people buy. But if demand is inelastic, it's like an old, stiff rubber band. You can yank on that price all you want, and people's buying habits, they just don't change that much. So economists have a way to measure this stretchiness. It all comes down to a number. And the magic dividing line is the number 1. If the score is greater than 1, we call it elastic, stretchy. If it's less than 1, it's inelastic, unstretchy. That's it. That one simple number can tell a company a ton about how to price its products. Okay, that makes sense, but what makes something stretchy or not? Why are we super sensitive to the price of one thing, but couldn't care less about the price of another? Well, it turns out there are 4 main things that drive this. First up, and this one's pretty intuitive, is it a necessity or a luxury? Think about water. You kind of have to have it, right? So if the price goes up, you're still going to buy it. That's inelastic. But what about diamonds? Total luxury. If the price of diamonds shoots up, it's really easy to just not buy one. That's elastic. Okay, this next one is a huge deal. It's all about substitutes. How many other options do you have? If you need insulin, there are no good substitutes. You have to buy it pretty much no matter the cost. That's super inelastic. But let's say your favorite brand of nasal spray gets more expensive. You've got, 10 other brands sitting right next to it on the shelf? You'll just grab a different one. That makes the demand for that specific brand very elastic. All right, this next one's a little more subtle, but it's so important. It all depends on how you define the market. The demand for food in general, totally inelastic. We all gotta eat. But what about the demand for breakfast cereal? Well, that's way more elastic, because if cereal gets too pricey, you can just switch to toast or yogurt or eggs. See the difference? And last but not least, there's time. The more time you have, the more stretchy your choices become. Let's say gas prices shoot up overnight. Tomorrow, you still have to drive to work, so you'll grit your teeth and fill up the tank. That's inelastic. But if gas prices stay sky high for a whole year, suddenly, you're looking at electric cars, maybe you're thinking about moving closer to your job or taking the bus. Over time, your demand becomes much more elastic. Okay, so we've got the theory down, but what's the so what? How does this whole idea actually show up in your wallet and in the big decisions that governments make? Let's go back to that puzzle we started with. The way to solve it is with something called the total revenue test. It's really simple. Total revenue is just the price you charge for something times the number of things you sell. And here is the golden rule for any business. It's all on this table. If your customers are not that sensitive to price, if demand is inelastic and you want to make more money, you raise the price. But, and this is the part that blows people's minds, if your customers are really sensitive to price, if demand is elastic, you actually lower the price to make more money. Why? Because the rush of new sales you'll get completely outweighs the lower price on each item. And here's a little pro-level tip for you. For a lot of products, elasticity isn't just one number. It actually changes depending on how high or low the price is. Look at this graph. Up in the high price zone, demand is elastic. So a small price cut would bring in a lot more revenue. But as you slide down that curve to the lower prices, demand can actually become inelastic. At that point, cutting prices would start to lose you money. The whole game is finding that perfect sweet spot right in the middle. But this isn't just about businesses trying to make a buck. It also answers one of the biggest questions in all of politics and government. When a new tax is placed on a product, who really ends up paying for it? The company or you? The answer is surprisingly simple, and it's incredibly powerful. The tax burden always falls more heavily on the side of the deal that is less elastic. In other words, whoever can't easily walk away gets stuck with the bill. Think about cigarettes. Demand is pretty inelastic, right? So when the government slaps a tax on them, it's the consumers who end up paying most of it through higher prices. Now flip it. What about beachfront hotels? The supply is inelastic. You can't just pick up a hotel and move it somewhere else. So if the government taxes those hotels, the owners have to eat most of the cost because they're the ones who can't walk away.
All right, let's wrap this all up. What's the big takeaway here?
Basically, you now have a new economic superpower. It's like you've been given a pair of X-ray glasses. You can now see the hidden forces that are constantly shaping the prices you pay for everything, from your morning coffee all the way to the taxes you pay at the gas station. This isn't just some abstract theory. It is the real-world logic behind every sale, every sin tax, and all that weird dynamic pricing you see online. Remember our puzzles from the beginning? Why do theaters charge kids less? Well, families with kids have lots of other entertainment options, so their demand is more elastic. A lower price brings in more total revenue. Why did old phone companies have cheaper waits at night? Because business callers had to call during the day. Their demand was inelastic, but everyone else could wait. It's all elasticity. So now, the next time you see a big sale or you hear about a new tax on sugary drinks, you won't just see a price change. You'll know exactly what's going on beneath the surface. You'll understand the strategy, you'll see the trade-offs, and you'll know who is really paying the price. And that, right there, is the power of understanding elasticity.